The second part of the crossover between Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman continues here. So let's talk about that in this video. Hello everyone, Dan here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, we'll be doing a review and then a deep dive into Absolute Batman number 16. This is a new book from DC Comics from their Absolute line. And this is the second part of a two-part crossover between Absolute Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman. If you have not checked out Absolute Wonder Woman issue number 15, go check that out. This does read well as a standalone thing, but their first meeting was in that other issue, so you wanna definitely figure out how they met originally, so you can kind of get into how the relationship is working out. This is written by Scott Snyder, also by Nick Dragotta, with art by Nick Dragotta, Frank Martin on colors, letters by Glenn Coles. In this issue, Absolute Batman in Hell. Part 2 of the Absolute crossover. Bruce Wayne is on a desperate hunt to help his friend Waylon, now fully transformed into a monstrous crocodile, roaming the sewers consumed with a deadly hunger. Batman's last option for a cure is to turn to a god for help, but will he have to descend into the depths of hell himself to get it? Yeah, this is exactly what that story is. And I think this story really works because Batman has been looking for ways to help his friends after everything that's gone down, right? He really has lost everything. All his allies, all the kids that he grew up with, that was his gang, that was his support system. And Bane took all that away from him in that previous arc, Abomination. But now, what can he do to help them? What can he do to gain some sort of semblance of normalcy? And he's going to start with Waylon. I think he's probably the one that was I don't know. It's really between Penguin and Waylon, um, as to who got affected the most. But man, it's pretty intense for all of them, really. But yeah, he asked for Wonder Woman's help, and then of course Wonder Woman, she kind of owes him a little favor. If you haven't, from the previous issue, I think it's a fun relationship. They both are they both are pretty different, but I think there's always this thing about Wonder Woman hanging out with Batman that forever in my head will be like, this just feels right. It just feels like a good pairing, like a good complement, because they are so different that they really complement each other. These two characters, even though they're absolute versions of themselves, are also very different, but they also still complement each other a lot, especially because this Batman, he's not the world's greatest detective. He's just somebody that is out trying to do the best with what he has and the best that he could do. But Wonder Woman, truly a full-on magical being in this world. So if anybody's gonna have an answer, it's definitely gonna be her. I'll go more into the full details of what happens in this episode or in this issue in a little bit. We'll give you plenty of warning if you haven't read the issue, but um, I think this is great. I think Nick Dragotta does some really fun stuff with not only the day-to-day stuff, right? We get to see Bruce Wayne kind of going back a little bit to normalcy after everything that's been going on, but also just the way that Dragotta draws Wonder Woman. Still, I mean, Hayden Sherman's been doing such a good job, but it's always fun to see another interpretation from another character or from another creator with the same character. They go on a trip that normally you would probably not even think about would be possible in an absolute Batman world, just because this book has been so grounded. But this one truly hits every emotional beat that I think Scott Snyder and Dragotta wanted to hit, but also just give you that foundation of like, there's something more in here. There's something more that can be explored. It is just really up to Batman. How much does he want to step into a wider world, or how much does he really just want to focus on Gotham? It's a lot of fun. It's really good stuff. I really love the relationship between these two. They have such great chemistry on the page. And then of course we have a really cool, like, there's a lot of intense action because that I think Dragotta is really good at that. And then it has a very satisfying conclusion. I think that it's setting up something for the next arc, but this one really reads well as a 1-2 combo with Absolute Wonder Woman number 15 and then this issue. I do wonder how this is going to be collected. ideally you would want to have those two together, but they might have to be separated into their own trade. So yeah, I don't know how all that's going to work out. All right, before we get into spoilers, let's talk about some of the variant covers. This is going to be a tough weekend for me to make sure that I don't overspend, because there's a lot of really cool stuff here. So let's check out these variant covers. So this is the main cover by Nick Dragotta. We have this very cool cover by Tyler Kirkham. Some of these are retail exclusives, like this is 616 Comics retail exclusive. Another Tyler Kirkham. He usually does multiple versions of his covers. This is the Clayman cover for the Man Boys web store, which you can also check out. I really love Clayman's been doing some really interesting stuff, specifically with covers for Absolute Batman. We have a very cool cover by Michael Cho, who is not an artist that I would think would fit the style of Absolute Batman, but let me know what you think of this one. Lyrics also does a connecting cover here. Probably, I think this is the other side of the Wonder Woman, so the Wonder Woman's on the other side of this one. We have Frank Cho as well doing a very cool cover, and it's always really interesting to see, like, because these artists have been drawing some of these characters for so long, but the absolute version of them is very different sometimes. Riccardo Federici with his own interpretation here of Absolute Batman. That was a 1 in 25. We also have this really cool heavy metal Hell Destroyer Dan Quintana variant. And then we are back to our main cover. All right. So I'm going to get a little bit into spoilers as to everything that just kind of happened. And I'm going to take you through some of the big beats of the story. We kick things off with Bruce going back to work. And I do want to mention the cover. It looks like, at first glance, it looks like Batman is telling Wonder Woman to go to hell. But there's a question mark there. So he's actually asking, going to hell, like go to hell, right? But yeah, it's a Friday. Batman's going back to work. He also stops by to visit some of his friends. He brings in some food, but obviously Oswald can't eat food, and Harvey's still like very much upset. You know, Harvey had half of his face crushed, so he's definitely leaning into that Two-Face. But they don't want him there. They're not welcome him, and Batman kind of has to take that frustration out somewhere else. So he goes and summons Diana, as he demand he Diana left him a little amulet that he could bring her whenever it was needed. So he's trying to find some help for all of his friends, but including mainly Waylon. Diana realizes that they have to go to hell for that, and you'll see that a lot of time passes. They're actually in there for quite a while. I think it's about 2 weeks in hell, which I don't think that translates to a lot of time in the real world. But as they're there, we also see that Alfred is the one kind of taking care of Killer Croc at the moment, just bringing him a lot of meat and stuff. So I think it's kind of a funny page as well. Although what's happened to Waylon is terrible, their interaction is pretty funny. So after that, we go back to hell. Diana gives Bruce some kind of serum, and he has a hallucination or a dream about his dad. And it's really cool to kind of go back and explore his relationship with his dad, because we don't get to see that much. We get to see him interact with his mom, luckily, because his mom is alive in this version. But yeah, and then they're finally there to face down this gigantic what's it called, centaur, that is gonna, like, maybe he has something that they can use, but ultimately it just devolves into a gigantic fight. Batman gets his ass kicked at first, but then he gets to fly around in Diana's Pegasus, which is pretty cool. But ultimately he gets shot trying to save Diana from an arrow, and it's really cool. It's a really fun sequence, really interesting, and ultimately maybe it's what needed to happen. So yeah, they after that they complete their mission. They go back, and Diana's been there. I think they say Bruce has been asleep for a few hours, recuperating, and then he gets an arrow, that the same arrow that he was stuck with. He brings that kind of as an amulet now, and tells Waylon to wear that around his neck. and maybe that'll help them become a little bit more human. So yeah, and then they of course end up with the tease for Ivy coming next issue. So very excited about that. So if you have read this book, let me know, what did you think of Absolute Batman number 16? What was your favorite cover? Was there a favorite moment that you had in this? And we'll keep talking about this because I love this book. As you saw, this was one of my favorite comics of 2025, and I don't see the gang slowing down. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. And stay tuned. And of course, we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.